I guess the obvious question, and you've probably answered it 100 times, is how and why did you reform the band now?
Well, when the band broke up, I was really, really sad, and I went through a period where I was very depressed, actually, very depressed. And I went from being, famous, having lots of money, playing on MTV and driving a Jag, having fun, to actually being homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I became homeless. I had no place to go, no money, I spent every dime I had. I spent, so much money that would make you sick, actually. And I couldn't find myself anymore. So for a few years after 1994, when the band broke up, I was completely, I was so sad. It was just terrible, actually. So I became homeless and didn't have a place to stay. I was, sleeping wherever I could sleep. And I was lucky enough to have a good voice, actually. And some people gave me work. And I started to work as a singer for jingles and soundtracks and writing songs for other people. And then my life went okay. And I got really lucky, and I thank God every day. During that period of time, I actually wrote a lot of songs, but I didn't think people would be interested in hearing another XYZ album until a year ago. Lots of labels called me and said, can you do another XYZ? And I said, yeah, I think I'm ready because I have something to say now. It took me a while to really have something to say. So now that I do, that is the reason why, actually.
Great. Well, like I said, man, for those of us who heard your first couple albums, I mean, you really struck a chord. Like I said, I still listen to that. There's nothing better than putting Inside Out in and just cranking that up, man. And the real test of time for that album is I work with a guy who's in his, I suppose he's getting close to 50, and he's a classic rocker. I mean, he basically didn't quit listening to music after 1980, and I was playing it one day, and he's like, "Who's that?" I go, "That's XYZ, man." And
party time.
Yeah, and he's like, he goes, that guy sounds like Glenn Hughes, and I'm like, that's
that's a compliment, because I believe that Glenn Hughes is one of the most incredible singer that heavy metal or that rock ever had. I mean, is a legend to me.
Oh yeah, he's another that never really got his, at least in America, never got his as popular as he should have been. Yeah.
I know, but in my heart, Glenn is the man.
Yep, he is. So you've done all these other things. I get the impression that XYZ is really is your passion. That rock and metal is really what you wanted to do.
Yeah, music is. Probably just like you, music is a passion. Music is not a business. I mean, I'm making a great living these days. I'm, recording for different artists and doing soundtracks for Paramount. I do voiceover for cartoons, the great, I did the Rugrats in Paris, Stuart Little too. I've done many, many things, and I'm everywhere. But the truth is, I do music because I like music, not because I'm making money. I mean, I'm making money, but it's not the thing. The thing is, I enjoy recording. I enjoy singing for fans, whether it's 5 people or 10,000 people. I don't care. Music is a passion, not a business. So
sure.
It's very important to me because this album was done with sincerity, and that is the most important thing for me, is being sincere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you have I should mention too that Paul Monroe, the original drummer, is back with you.
Yeah.
And then you got a Sean McNabb.
Yeah.
And J.K. Northrup playing with you as well. And did I read that right, that Mark did do some of the co-writing on this?
Yeah, Mark co-wrote actually 2 songs on the CD with me.
Okay.
And he did well. I mean, Mark is a great guitar player. He lives in New Mexico, and we talk on the phone very often. But Mark is no longer into heavy metal. Mark is into blues and is preparing to write songs for actually a pretty famous blues guitar player. So,
wow,
Mark is the man. Mark is will always be one of my favorite guitar players, and he's a very good human being as well.
Yeah, well, I always thought he was the next George Lynch in my book. I mean,
thank you.
That style he had. Again, I go back to that first album, because that really had an impact on me. I was
man.
I was about 19 then, and I'm like, this is some great stuff.
Thanks, man. Well, one day I will send you some demos of the first album that you're probably going to like. Actually, if you want, I'll send you some demos of the CD before we actually get signed. And these demos are good too.
That's the thing. You guys had been around. It's not like you were an overnight success story. You'd been around since '85. Was that right? You've been around for some time.
The thing is, nobody wanted to sign us. I mean, when I came to America, I had $500 in my pocket and a guitar, and I was a typical foreigner coming to the country with big hopes and big dreams. And no one wanted to talk to me. No one wanted to do anything. I was just like, I was outcasted from, nobody wanted to do anything to do with Terry ILLOUS. So I formed XYZ with my bass player. And the only reason that we formed XYZ is because nobody else wanted to be with us. So,
but then Don Dokken found you and wanted, he thought so much of you produced the first album. So.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to work with Don. I think we have learned many lessons working with Don, and I'm glad we did that actually.
Mm-hmm. The worst thing for me through the '90s and now into the new millennium is that there's just such a lack of melody and harmony in the music, and it's all intense and tuned down. And while I like some of the grooves and some of the guitar licks, there's a whole generation of people that have not heard a singer like you.
Well, thank you very much.
Seriously, there's no kids that you can't even compare with the Backstreet Boys, because that's hardly singing. Just a powerful voice.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's really sad to me that because I think the backbone of music is melody to me.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I go back to Journey and that stuff, and
of course,
it's got to have a hook to it, and that's why I still listen to those first two albums you guys did, because they had that hook,
The first thing, actually, for me as a songwriter, you're right, I need to have a hook. The first time I actually wrote a song, I didn't even speak English, but what struck me at the time was the melody. I said, where is my melody? That's the main point. Mm-hmm. And to have a melody, whether you sing in Spanish, English, German, doesn't matter, because you will be able to sing, to hum the melody. And that is the strongest thing, is the melody and the groove, of course.
I have to admit, Terry, I did not know you were from, I want to say France, so was it Spain? Where you were from France, actually, right? Were you
actually,
a citizen?
I'm from both, actually. My dad was from Spain. My family's from Spain, and I was born in France.
Okay.
So I actually I'm what you call a mutt.
I didn't know if you had citizenship in one or the other.
Oh yeah, I'm an American citizen. I've been here for like 15 years. And
okay.
My heart is got a little American flag in it.
Great. But what I was saying is I did not know that until just now.
Really?
Until the interview was offered to me, and I looked. I thought XYZ was, for some reason I had in my head it was a Arizona-based band.
No.
and that I swear to God that's what I remember seeing in Metal Edge or whatever, and I did not know that. And now that I know that, I listen back to, because you had such a unique style. Songs on like Souvenirs and so forth, you can really detect it now too.
Very European.
Yeah, but I had no idea that
Souvenirs,
yeah. And to me that song, still, man, that still strikes a chord.
I'm gonna whenever we're off the air, you'll send me your email, and I'm gonna send you the demo of that song, and you're gonna flip.
Oh man!
Because the demo of that song for me is really, really good.
Yeah.
I'll send you that.
That's just a beautiful song. So
yeah, thank you. I wrote it for a girlfriend, actually.
The nice thing about what you guys were doing too is you had stuff from Souvenirs, and then you go to Nice Day to Die. Mm-hmm. Wide variance of music there. You could almost say that's two different bands.
Yeah, but music. I think you have to be open open to like all kinds of music. Like for example, I'm sure you listen to XYZ, but you also listen to Metallica, Journey. You go from, you listen to all kinds of things, and that's the beauty about someone. You have to be able to be open, and we all have different things inside of us where we want to, be violent sometimes. Sometimes we want to be romantic. Sometimes we have anger, Well, this is basically how I write songs. Sometimes I feel anger. Sometimes I feel sadness. So music is a therapy for me. That's all. I'm not a really good talker. I'm not a really good. I would never be able to be an attorney or a judge or whatever. But one thing is for sure is I express myself by writing songs.
That's another thing we don't see in today's bands very often, especially on the major label. It's one song rehashed. I can't think of the last time there's been a band that's come out with a real diverse album like that. So it's too bad the way the situation is now.
But, I guess it has a lot to do with the record companies.
Yeah,
they force you to do one thing, and you can't really be yourself. I mean, the old days, like bands like Zeppelin, they used to never care. They say, I don't care, I'll do whatever I want to do. And that is why these bands were successful.
Yep. So let's talk about the album a little. Is it coming? Is it out in Europe or when? May 15th. I'm sorry, I did have that in front of me. Yeah. May 15th it's released. It's called Letter to God, and I listened to some of the audio tracks online, and it sounded spectacular. It sounded like you guys haven't missed a beat.
Thank you.
It sounded. It did. I mean, there was some slower stuff, some heavier stuff.
Right.
How was working with Sean and J.K.?
They're great. I mean, Sean is a great bass player. Sean used to be actually with Great White and Quiet Riot. Sean is a very, very good musician, and I like musicians, and J.K. is the same way. J.K. is good songwriter that has a great sense of humor, and so it makes it very easy when you work with people like that in the studio. And it took us 8 months to record the album, so we took our time. It's not like we did a quick job just to make a buck whatsoever. We just took our time and make sure that the fans would get something that is good. I did not want to repeat myself as far as doing the same thing I've done in the past, but I also wanted to keep the roots. As I always say, you have to know, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. And that's really what I go by. And I remember being the singer of a band called XYZ, remember, writing songs like Souvenir. So I kept that in mind, and I wrote something new as well. So it's just a mixture of that sound.
Yeah.
Just an evolution in a way.
Yeah. You'll have to tell those guys. I'm a big fan of both those guys, actually. I was a big King Cobra fan. And,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I loved King Cobra. And I think J.K. was on the last album, the 3. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a fan of him. And Sean, of course, I believe. Well, Sean's done a lot with Paul Shortino, I believe.
Shortino is one of my favorite singers.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy, too.
He deserves a big break. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, he can sing.
Yeah.
He's a real singer.
Yeah, and he's got such range, but he's still got that scratch to his voice. It's just awesome.
He's very scary.
Yes. I hear his son is quite a singer, too. I've not heard Paulie, but I've heard he's
Paulie's really good, but Paul is the man.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's back to the rough cut days.
Yeah, great guy. I love Paul.
Yep. Now I got to ask you. I just want to back up a little. When you came over to the States, were you a fan of a lot of this music? I mean, you knew kind of what was going on. Is that why you came over to get into the LA scene?
Yeah, because
kind of the idea.
I couldn't do that in Europe. I mean, I got signed very early on. I mean, when I was 17 years old, I already had a record deal. And the album never came out because the record company said, well, it sounds too American, so it doesn't sound European, so we can't release that. So I was crushed. So I decided to come to Los Angeles because I believed that eventually I could find my niche here. I could find a little place to call my own, and I did, actually.
What's ironic about you saying that is now that sound is considered European. you know, America's. I love America too, but we are very trendy here. And it's like, what have you done for me lately? And here today, gone tomorrow, and every other cliche. You know, they'll. The thing about Europe and Japan is that they've stayed pretty true to this style of music. And, you know, and I would assume the album will do spectacular over there. I can't.
I tell you, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, because the truth is, I mean, I'm not pretentious or, you know, but I'm doing about 40 to 50 interviews a week.
Wow.
Only for Europe. And this is not a lie. This is I mean, my publicist couldn't believe it. I mean, this is outstanding. I mean, I've got some great reviews. I've got some people getting pissed off because I didn't repeat what I've done in the past. I've got all kinds of responses. But the truth is, it's a lot of interviews and people telling me, "Wow, I'm glad you're coming back with something fresh." And overall, the vibe is really, really positive.